The value of therapy for children and for teenagers is that it can provide a space in which they can gain emotional grounding, gain a sense of what's going on with them, and learn how to better maneuver and process that. I think anybody who's a teenager now in the 2010s or in the 2000s are very fascinating because they are so exposed to so much information, so much data, that they actually know probably more than anybody from any other era at that age knew. I think it's great. I think that technology and social media is a really wonderful thing. I think that it really helps teenagers and kids to understand the world better, to be able to have quick access to research and to information. Kids now know everything, but do they really understand what they know? Do they really have a true grasp on all of the information and all of the data and all of the knowledge that they have? They don't understand the nuances or the complexities of a lot of the information that is coming at them. And what that does is it creates kind of like an empty sense of entitlement. Well, I know a lot. The exposure and constant barrage of information, the data that's enveloping them, the quick access to stuff is also a good way to kind of numb out and push aside what they're feeling. The escape is oftentimes the escape that is not the most innately, organically creative. When you have access to information, or you can numb yourself out or escape through computers or iPhones or whatever, it stops you from connecting creatively, from tapping into your imagination. They don't have to go into the inner world. They're not so much required to express their emotions through creativity or through art or through performance or whatever, because they can go through the media channels, the technology channels. The outside world is so stimulating, it is so all-encompassing, so enveloping, and so always in the moment, always happening, that kids and younger teenagers don't have the time to really sit with themselves. And if you don't tap into your imagination or to your fantasy, it's not easy to find possibility and to find hope and to see the future. And actually, I have found that therapy with kids can actually be a very, very creative experience for them. They tap into the feelings and to the imagination that is being suppressed by the constant wave of information that they are being consumed by. I think a lot of teenagers now in the 2000s don't really fully understand the value of true connection with people because they haven't necessarily had the opportunity to do it due to technology and to social media. There's a disposability of relationships. So the inability to deal with conflict. I'm angry at you right now, I'm upset, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete you instead of try to sit with those feelings of discomfort or try to figure out how to work it out with you, which actually can carry itself out into young adulthood. If they don't know how to work out conflict in relationships, they're going to have a really hard time once they get to be in their 20s, or once they're faced with more realistic expectations like the work world or in adult relationships. And then they're exposed to shows, reality shows, where people do exactly that, devalue and fight with people instead of try to work it out. The reality is there's no reality in reality shows. These images and messages are the kind of messages that are very confusing for teenagers because they see people on these shows acting out their feelings and their conflicts through devaluing other people, through humiliation, through fighting, by acting out in a self-destructive or harmful way your feelings rather than to talk them out. The individual is most important. The collective is irrelevant, which is not the way to deal with feelings. It's not the way to deal with conflict. But this is what I think younger people see. What I think is really going on with a lot of kids is they don't know what they're feeling and they don't know how to contain their feelings. Everything inside is all over the place. And they don't have the appropriate ways in which to release it. The feelings kind of bottle up inside of them and eventually start to come out in ways that are very destructive. They'll start acting out in school. They won't be able to sit still. They won't be able to be by themselves. They will maybe even start turning to alcohol or drugs. And those are kind of the things that I've seen working with kids, is that they turn to faulty coping mechanisms to deal with what's really going on because they don't know what to make of it. So it creates a lot of impatience and a lot of inability to kind of be focused in what's going on right now. The role of therapy for the teenager is to provide emotional groundedness and emotional learning so that they know what they're feeling and how to deal with it and how to express it effectively, and ultimately how to connect and truly relate to people.